Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to talk about Unarmored Defense for the Barbarian. This is part of the How to Play Dungeons and Dragons series that I'm doing for the Barbarian. Now, Barbarians don't need armor. This is the whole reason why we have Unarmored Defense, and it becomes more apparent as your Barbarian levels up. So if you want information and details on Unarmored Defense, turn to page 48 of the Player's Handbook for details on Unarmored Defense. And very simply, I'm going to go through this. It says, while you are not wearing any armor, your armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier. You can also use a shield and still gain the benefits of unarmored defense, okay? So you can use a shield because a shield, although it gives you an armor class bonus, it's not actually classified as armor that you're wearing on your body. So that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to come back to this because it's going to be more important to talk about shields and other aspects of bonuses to armor class as we progress through the video. So unarmored defense is a bit odd. It actually encourages doing what other classes are trying to wear, which is they're trying to wear armor, and yet you have a feature for a class where it's encouraging you to not wear armor and simply have a decent dexterity modifier and a pretty impressive looking constitution modifier so that you can gain the benefits of a high armor class when you wouldn't normally have that. Which sounds really strange, but I actually think it makes an awful lot of sense, and it also makes up for the fact that a lot of your class features don't work if you're wearing heavy armor. Not so much if you're wearing armor, but if you're wearing heavy armor. So I want to just talk very, very briefly about some of the aspects to unarmored defense that you might have questions regarding. So these are the things that tend to come up that I find when it comes to playing the Barbarian. So as your Barbarian levels up first, it's going to start out with a reasonable constitution modifier, and it's really up to you how you build your character and whether you get a decent dexterity modifier. Obviously, strength is going to be your highest score, but this feature actually makes armor redundant as you start to level up, because by the time you hit level 8, you probably should have maxed out your strength up to 20, and then so by the time you get to level 12, you're starting to find a situation where really your constitution modifier and your dexterity modifier are probably going to be as good as wearing armor. Medium armor, something like breastplate, maybe not so much half plate, but there's disadvantage to using something like half plate because of the disadvantage to your rolls when making a stealth check. So it's not something that you necessarily want to pick up unless you're really interested in doing that. And you can also increase your armor class by wearing a shield, whether you're wearing armor or using your unarmored defense, which is always great. So as you level up and get higher, really wearing armor just doesn't seem to make much sense. In fact, it's going to work against you. As I said, you can use a shield with your unarmored defense, and that also means that if that shield is a magical shield, you can still use it because sometimes shields have an additional bonus to armor class that you can utilize. What unarmored defense doesn't stack with is different ways of calculating your armor class. That's different formulas. So something like mage armor, the spell, is a different formula. There's a different formula for figuring out how you determine your armor class if you're wearing armor and adding your dexterity modifier. So wearing specific sets of armor, that's a particular formula. And then something like the unarmored defense for the monk, which is different again. Okay, it's a different formula. So that's the thing to remember, different formulas. They don't stack together. so don't get confused with that. That doesn't mean you can add in your armor and your unarmored defense as well. And it also is going to follow into something we're going to talk about, natural armor. I know that question's coming for sure. If you already have unarmored defense feature, you can't benefit again. As I said, you can't benefit again from something like multi-classing into a monk. And it's very simple. There's a section on page 164 that talks about unarmored defense and how they can be combined, or the lack of being able to be stacked or combined, and how unarmored defense works. So there's a very small, I think it's like a sentence that explains exactly that part of unarmored defense. Unarmored defense gives you a pretty reasonable armor class while you're sleeping without armor. So that's pretty useful. So if you don't wear armor, you take your armor off, you lose your armor, you still got a reasonable armor class, which is really, really helpful. And if you've got a sort of dungeon master who is using rules where you can't sleep in armor and you have to be taking that armor off, otherwise you wind up with exhaustion levels or some other penalty applied, then you don't have to worry about that because you're a barbarian and you don't need armor. If you're going to wear any kind of armor, I think I've said it before, I think the best option is definitely breastplate. It's medium, so it's not heavy plate. It's not going to affect your other abilities as a barbarian. It's going to give you a 14 plus your dexterity modifier, and there's no disadvantage to stealth checks, which is why I would suggest it. For the first level character that I'm going to be using for this example, I believe the dexterity modifier on this character is a +2, and the constitution modifier is a +2, which means you can wind up starting out, provided you've got enough money, that is, it might take you a little while, 14 + 2, that's 16. Without the armor, it's 14. So that's sort of how it roughly will look. You still benefit from having cover. So any cover bonuses still stack with your unarmored defense. So any of the armor class bonuses that you get from having half cover or 3/4 cover still can be applied to unarmored defense. Spells that give you an AC or armor class bonus will stack with unarmored defense, provided that they aren't part of a formula. So spells that aren't part of a formula, so mage armor won't work, but a spell like shield will work. So that +5, you can add that to your unarmored defense if you cast that spell or have shield on you in some way. So that all will work fine. What about magic items? Bonuses for armor class, will they stack with unarmored defense? Yes, they will, provided the magic item is not actually classified as a piece of armor that you wear on your body. If it's classified as armor you wear on your body, then no, you can't actually apply that. But if it's a shield or a necklace and it gives you an armor class or an AC bonus, then yes, you can stack that with your unarmored defense. So all really, really simple stuff, still super helpful to know this sort of stuff. And now let's deal with the last question, which is always going to be natural armor. What is the story with natural armor? Now you're not going to like the response that I have for you. I did a little bit of research and it's not even remotely clear. Jeremy Crawford has given what I can consider to be two different answers to this question. One, what about natural armor gained from something like a subrace, like lizard folk or something like that, and you get an armor class bonus? Does that stack with unarmored defense? Or even if you were talking about the tortoise, the tortoise race that was released not so long ago, will their natural armor be able to be stacked with unarmored defense? Well, when it was discussed about the lizard folk, he did suggest that be generous and allow that to be stacked on there. Here's the problem. I also found comments from Jeremy saying that natural armor follows a particular formula. So that means that if it's a particular formula that's calculating your armor, then you can't stack those. So it's contradictory. And I know that does you no good as a dungeon master or a player to have two different views from the same person. Now, he may have retracted some of that, but I think the easiest way to understand natural armor interacting with unarmored defense is this. If you have natural armor and you're a lizard folk or some other creature, and then you wear armor, say plate mail or half plate or breastplate, will that increase your ability to actually not be hit? It's probably not going to increase it more. All you're benefiting from is the higher end of the armor class bonus. So the natural armor is across your skin, okay? So whatever bonus you got to that, plus your dexterity modifier, plus 10, that's going to be your armor class. If I decide, and I've got natural armor, and I wear something like half plate or breastplate, I put that on top of my skin, I'm only going to take the armor value that relates to the highest one. It's not like the skin has been applied to the actual suit of armor itself. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm hoping it does make sense. So I would personally think it would be much more sensible to treat natural armor like a different formula rather than stacking it with unarmored defense. Because remember, when you're doing the calculation for unarmored defense, and it goes 10 plus your dexterity modifier, so 10 plus your dexterity modifier was no armor, right? That's for anybody. Then the plus 2 constitution modifier that you get for unarmored defense, that's really the part of the equation that relates to natural armor, or if you were wearing a suit of actual armor. I think that's the easiest way to understand it. So I wouldn't stack them. I don't think it's going to make an awful lot of sense. And with the example that I've given you with the character that we're using, the Barbarian human that you can find, I've put down the link to that particular character sheet if you need to access it again. So 10 plus 2, that's the dexterity modifier, plus the constitution, okay, comes to 14, which is on the actual character sheet, which I talked about before. So natural armor, really it's only following the same concept. If you've got a plus 1 to natural armor, then you're really looking at 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your natural armor. Now you wouldn't take this as your armor class. You would always pick the formula that's going to give you the best result. I think that's the easiest way to understand how to deal with natural armor. But then again, as I said, there have been 2 different versions produced from Jeremy Crawford, and he deals with sage advice. And so as the Dungeon Master, I suggest you just make the call that you think makes sense to you. I've just provided you with my 2 cents, and hopefully that's been useful to you. Okay, for the rest of this video, I'm done. There isn't any comments or questions popping up, which is great. But if you found this video helpful or informative or useful in any way whatsoever, please hit the like button. Share the video with somebody else if they are trying to wrap their head around unarmored defense. I know it can be a bit confusing. I managed to wind up writing 2 pages of notes. If you like this sort of content, then subscribe if you're not already subscribed. There's more of this sort of thing going to be happening. Also, there's a bell button. Hit the bell button and that will let you know when I'm live and also when I publish a new video. If you want to support my channel, then watch more of my videos. There's going to be truckloads of them by now, at least 500. I do one every day, and the Barbarian will be featured probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I know that sounds like a horribly long time, but actually there's quite a lot to go through. Surprisingly, I didn't realize that was going to be as complicated as it has become. If you want to support my channel, I don't do Patreon, but down in the description, you know the thing, those affiliate link things. You can buy stuff online, I get a small commission. You pay exactly the same price as you would normally pay, and you don't even have to buy the thing that it's linked to, which is kind of great. And if you have any questions, chuck them up in the live chat box right now. Otherwise, you can put your comments down in the comments section once the video is uploaded by YouTube. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. And yes, I realize I've shown you a 7, but yes, that's it. We're done.